Hello, everyone. It's Michael Jaco with Unleashing Intuition Secrets. And I'm joined today by Laura Eisenhower, absolutely amazing woman. I'm going to read her bio from her new website. And it's quite stunning, all the stuff that she has going on. I'm not going to read it all, but I'll read a good chunk of it. She's a global alchemist, researcher, medical and intuitive astrologist. She is an internationally acclaimed speaker who has presented her work worldwide. Laura is the great granddaughter of President Dwight David Eisenhower, and she reveals exopolitical information about his administration that has been largely held in secrecy. She is considered by many to be one of North America's leading researchers on health, which is very prominent right now, right? Exopolitics, alchemy, metaphysics, and galactic history. So, Laura, thanks for joining me, and everyone that's watching right now. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. Good to see you. Thank you for having me, Michael. Hey, everybody.
Yeah, so your website is stunning. I'll put it up in a minute. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, I've been censored on YouTube, Instagram. I had my original Facebook account taken down. So just like a lot of people dealing with censorship, I have been as well, even though I've been very, very careful as far as what I've shared. And the understanding that one has to be very careful. So I joined this new platform, Conscious Vitality, and the show is called Cosmic Gaia, and I do lives every week. I've had some great guests, and all you got to do is click on. You can do a 7-day free trial. It does come with a subscription fee every month, but you'll be able to access a lot of shows, not just my own. And it has it's all censorship free, private servers, and it also has a social media element to it. And it's just, kind of like Facebook. So very protected. And they're going to have a free platform as well. So, if people don't have it in their budget to pay something every month, there will be a platform where people can post videos. But the actual show part is very different. That'll be just for this kind of thing. And I don't know when that is going to happen, but I know it's going to happen soon.
Excellent. Wow. That's what we all, that's where we're all going to right now, going to, behind the curtain, broadcast right now, because everything we put out, I just got my third channel taken down on YouTube. So this is, fortunately, I started this a while ago and kind of built it up a little bit. So it's an easy fix. So people just like come right over here to this one. So it's nice. We'll talk about a lot of the stuff that consciousness wise makes a difference going forward. So I believe, and we were discussing this, that it's, I could put together the ultimate team of warriors, go around, and within a couple of weeks, we could clear every single deep stater at the top there is, clean them. But what happens after that? Everybody's like, "Oh, you're a hero. You save the world." No, it doesn't work that way, because if we don't work out, they just infiltrate back in, just as they've done thousands of years. For thousands of years, they've been doing this game, guys, and they got it down. So, Laura, what are your thoughts on raising consciousness so that we defeat these guys once and for all?
Well, I think that's the greatest lessons we have as humans. We're here for soul development and spiritual development, and we have to learn how to be sovereign. I mean, to me, that's one of the most important things we're tasked with. And people might define that differently. And, sometimes the English language can be somewhat limiting as far as how we relate to certain words. But when I say sovereignty, I mean self-sufficient within, strong in who you are. You're a free thinker. You have a relationship with God's source on your own terms. And it's not about what's coming in from the external and trying to be somebody you're not. It's the opposite. It's really learning how to align with the truth frequency, be true to oneself. Because to me, when we're standing in that vibration, we can heal in a very accelerated way. We can transform all sorts of things. And we begin to activate our dormant DNA. We begin to unlock greater and higher spiritual abilities. And there's no way we're going to do that if we're following something external. And so if something comes to save the day, it sort of stunts the growth of that individual being able to do that work. And so I feel like we're incarnating and going through these experiences as a soul, dealing with a lot of repeated history until we break the pattern. And it's very similar in our own personal lives, where we might keep attracting narcissists or backstabbers. I mean, we have to eventually learn how to seal up that receptor that one might plug into, or that place in us that gets taken advantage of, so we can build boundaries. We can just be strong in who we are and recognize that these obstacles are to help us to become spiritual athletes and warriors. They're not here to defeat us and victimize us to the point where we keep expecting saviors and heroes and somebody else to solve it for us. And that's what I know we, have talked about, is so important, the awakening process, because we're generating our creative power all the time, but we don't want it to be from an infective, our creative channels being infected by propaganda, narratives, ancestral patterns that don't serve us, or any outside belief systems that aren't in alignment with our own personal truth. And I just feel all adversities and challenges that come up are to help us gain self-mastery. And it's very easy to misunderstand it, go into fear, have somebody else fix it or solve it. And it's the same kind of deal with, certain kinds of doctors. I'm not talking like in the event of emergency, sometimes we do need that assistance, but where we can have more command over our health instead of panic and fear every time something goes wrong, and look at it instead as an opportunity to get closer to ourselves. Because to me, the adversity helps us to wake up if we let it bring us closer to who we are versus what they're attempting to do, which is the opposite, where we become more and more dependent and enslaved.
That's beautiful. And this is the Laura Eisenhower that I love, because I remember watching you I've watched you for years, and your information is basically that perfect mother, energy that I know that's what everyone's searching for. So a lot of people are searching for that mother energy, but they have basically attached themselves to the deep state, if you want, and they're not everything's being taken care of for them. I remember posting a meme where there are lions in a cage, and they got all their health care and everything taken care of, and they had the food brought to them. And then, then they saw the lions on the Serengeti, and a lot of us were saying, well, which one do you like? And it's like, I'm like, of course, everyone likes the lions, and they're free, And then, people that are kind of like left leaning, I guess you would say, which I don't care. I mean, Republican, Democrat, independent, makes no difference. It's a consciousness that we're focused on right now. So they were like, well, I kind of like that, having everything taken care of for me, free medical, food is not an issue and stuff like that. I was like, wow. So you'd rather live in a cage? Well, a lot of them do, actually. So we have to wake that portion of the population up. Otherwise, we don't get to this point where we break free. So that's a challenge we're going through right now. So breaking free that last remnant of consciousness that is still there. Because like I said, if I were to move with a team and clear the decks of all the evildoers, those people would be frustrated because, well, I thought they were taking care of everything. Everything's not going to be taken care of. That's not right. So there's problems with that. So the consciousness has to be raised. And I believe that happens with people like you and I, where, we come in and we give people the right frame of reference, create those neuron grooves, which are good, not manipulated.
Oh, totally. And the choices we make are going to be supportive of being able to protect ourselves. Because I know people are worried about the force, the mandates, a lot of the things that we've seen in history where, we hear about political prisoners in our own country right now. Right. I think that's got a lot of people freaked out. But when we can reach that awakening and place of sovereignty and the desire to be free, we can prepare ourselves and not just be blindsided by what's coming down the pike. And so the preparedness is so important. And it's really hard for people's head to wrap around all that's, kind of happening. But now it's in plain sight. Now it's real obvious. Now it can't really be denied. And exactly what you're saying. We're born into captivity, generation upon generation of waking up in a cage and not realizing that there's this much vaster world also connected to us as multidimensional beings, not limited to this personality matrix. And people fear their own natural habitat, their own power, their own creative freedom, to the point, they accept this captivity. And now I feel like because it's an ascension window period, we're being pushed to the edge to create the ultimate breakthrough, to release ourselves from these patternings once and for all. But wouldn't you agree, it's a lot about preparedness right now? and I don't mean to turn questions on you. I just have so many questions for you as well. When we look at this level of force and mandating, as long as we're prepared, we should be all right, right? I mean,
yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, you're referring to other kind of instances in time, really, when you talk about political prisoners, because during the before the Revolutionary War, there were the British were taking Americans and throwing them in prison. They had no recourse, no legal recourse, and that was one of the main things that pushed the rebels, because there were a lot of people think that during the Revolutionary War everybody was against Britain. No, it was almost 50-50. So there were loyalists against the rebels. So there were loyalist armies of Americans that fought alongside the British. They didn't do so well, but they did fight. And the same thing in the French Revolution and so forth. Throughout time, wherever there's a major change in consciousness, you're going to have that. But yes, even during that time frame, they came in and they seized all of the property. Even George Washington, I think they came in and seized Mount Vernon at one time, the British. So the same thing with Benjamin Franklin. All of those guys, had their property seized and their assets. The British had long trains of when they're coming to a fight, and they were filled with wagons full of stuff that they were taking from the rebels. And so that is something we're starting to see again, as I just saw a report where the FBI raided this Beverly Hills bank that had safe deposit boxes under the guise of, well, we're going in to get illegal activity. $85 million. Most of those people that they seized assets from, which haven't been returned, were not criminals. So they're coming in and starting to seize assets. They're doing all this stuff that we had before in the past. So yeah, you do have to have stuff. I've been talking about this for a while. Have things ready. Have like maybe a month's worth of food and supplies and cash and gold and silver if you can have that. But there has to be a point where something is going to happen. I believe it's happened every time in history, and we're reaching that same inflection point once again.
Right. And we're going through a Pluto returns in this country, and Pluto's in the same position it was in 1776. So that's pretty wild.
Wow. Yeah. How about that? I love the astrology part. Thanks for bringing that in. That's good. Because I have some other people that talk about how Leo is basically a big factor right now too. So it's definitely the changes are here. People have been talking about the same situation, like you just said, from past. So can you tell us a little bit about that? Because it's not just about the 3D level that's going on. And in some cases, it's even more on the other etheric levels of consciousness that are really affecting the way things are moving right now as well.
Right. Well, Pluto returns, the fact that it's in the same location as it was in 1776, this is still an extraordinary window compared to that particular time in history, as far as all that I've researched and come across, and how astrology has really backed that up. For example, the sun started to move through the 13th sign of Fiacus in 2010, which really represented a timeline shift and this prophesized window period of so-called ascension or end of the world, new beginning kind of thing, and how so many different versions of what that looks like has been played out in movies and Hollywood and different books that people have written, to the point where it's almost like a choose your own adventure thing based on our frequency, where we are in our consciousness and on our soul journey and development. Some of us have been able to overcome things in previous lifetimes, previous time cycles, different star systems. We have different callings, different missions, different purposes, different lessons, challenges. And so we're all very unique, but I mean, there is that common ground of source energy and how we're connected with that, what I call the unified field, 0 point unified field. So the 13th sign and the sun moving through the 13th sign has given us greater access to the 0 point unified field and the element ether. Because if we look at the zodiac, all the astro signs are either earth, fire, air, or water. And we, can relate to one another here and there. It doesn't even matter if we really know our charts, but it's like, oh, hey, I'm a Leo, I'm a Libra, I'm a this, I'm a that. But we have a much, much broader picture, bigger picture when it comes to, well, where's our moon? Where's our Venus? Where's our Mercury as far as the full chart goes? Mm-hmm. But anyway, So we've been working with 4 elements, basically. Well, what happened to the 5th element? Well, when we look at it symbolically in sort of the Satanism, it's an inverted pentagram that has its 5th element going into the ground. And this whole correction process that I feel has manifested also this timeline shift in relation to the sun moving through the 13th sign has a lot to do with the Venus transits and how the orbit of Venus has drawn a perfect pentagram in the sky, which I consider like a correction. Like the planet Venus working so closely with the Earth, to me, has woven back or helped to kind of do the planetary grid repair and also help the planetary body get back into alignment so that the galactic cores of Andromeda and Milky Way are one with each other again. Because of all these cataclysms, exploded planets, Lemurian Holocaust, Nephilim Wars, Atlantean cataclysms, and on, this planet was really destabilized and the mother energy wasn't able to be anchored in the planet as easily. And so we've been dealing with all these dark cycles of history while this sort of correction on a much larger level has taken place, that many of us embody in our own awakening process are coming in with particular missions, and how that also relates to our galactic heritage and other beings of a higher nature that are assisting us as well. So anyway, this correction has been happening. And when the sun started to move through the 13th sign, this particular zodiac sign is connected with the element ether. And the number 13 brings us right into the neutron window, right into that 0 point energy and the activation of the mother arc. And on a numerological level, 13 connects with death, the number 13. And then 1 + 3 is 4, connects with the emperor or the warrior type energy. And so it's all just very interesting to look at that, because if these corrections have been taking place and the ether energy is now available, which impacts the earth grids as well in the 13th gate, which exists in the core sun of the planet, which impacts the planetary grid network, that to me is part of the awakening process that we're experiencing on a personal level as a micro version of what's happening on a macro level. So if we can stand in alignment with that, we're going through a sort of soul alchemy. And that's kind of why I use the term global alchemist, because there are things taking place on a cosmic and earthly level that is literally changing lead into gold. And so within our own soul nature, if we can stand in alignment with this and connect with that ether energy, it'll flood into our system, purify our inner elements and nucleic acids of our DNA, which are elemental. That also connect with platonic solids and the healing of the dodecahedron, which was put in reversal codes in order to make the ether inaccessible, so that the elementals and our DNA would become contaminated, damaged, and we'd pass it down generation to generation, a very dumbed down version of ourselves. So this is a huge time of activation. But if we're all distracted over here, allowing ourselves to be infected with propaganda and narratives, and we're just sitting there in fear, we're like lodged in the birth canal and we can't continue or move through the death cycle, which is what the Pluto returns also represents. And instead, we're like lodged in the birth canal, or we put a prison wall around the cocoon. And when it's time to emerge, we can't seem to get out. So this is what we're trying to help people with, is to awaken them to, okay, the key is within, you can unlock the door, open it up. And so it was interesting to find all that out with the astrology thing. But I mean, so many people that are on this path with a mission like this are living it and embodying it. But what's great is that there's significant data to really back it up astrologically, as far as how it relates to the planetary grid network, our DNA, and the activation of our galactic chakras, and how upgrading our DNA has everything to do with the integration of polarity and the harmonizing of the masculine and feminine and the electromagnetic energies that they try and weaponize so that they can weaponize against us, each other. But they're using the same power that can heal us, but they're inverting it and twisting it through these, harmful technologies and just the lies and deceptions that just confuse the heck out of people.
My God, that's unbelievable. Wow, that was a data dump and a half. Good God, good job. So I heard you say several times there's a lot of feminine energy involved here, and I've noticed that myself. In my courses and stuff that people subscribe to and stuff. There's 7% are women. And I always thought that, when I first released my first book, The Intuitive Warrior, I was like, it's going to appeal to all the warriors out there and, maybe police officers and some firefighters to get it too. But it was like women were all over that book and still are, of course, but at a rate that kind of blew me away. And then I was like, duh, they're intuitive. They get it. They want to become, warriors in this new energy field. In 2012, a lot of people talk about that. That was the end of a cycle, the end of the Mayan calendar and so forth. In a lot of ways, it was, because we're basically that old way died, and a lot of people aren't ready to believe it's dead, and they're still holding on to that past. What do you feel about all that?
Yes, and this whole window is very much a death, rebirth, alchemical, transformative, like, period. And with the Pluto returns and also the conjunctions of Saturn, Jupiter, and Pluto, which were very, very tight with each other, most of 2019 and 2020, we were really experiencing that. We're required, to let go of the old paradigm, to divorce the imposters, to say, I'm breaking up with that old system. Whatever part of me is still hooked into it, it doesn't serve me anymore. And everybody needs to kind of ask themselves, where are you still in relationship to it? Where are you allowing it to siphon or harvest your life force? Where are you allowing it to squash your dreams or cause you to compromise or live a lesser version of yourself? And so we have to do that shadow work. If we don't do that shadow work, Pluto is very, very intense, and something has power over us, just like Saturn. So because Saturn's been so close to Pluto, and Saturn represents outer authority, limitation, and rules, the Pluto next to Saturn, if we don't understand that we're letting go of an old system that is really hiding tyrannical rulership behind the scenes, at least in this country, until now, it's coming out of the woodworks, and it's obvious that there's been a major infiltration, and our freedoms are at stake here. It's pushing us to have to look at ourselves. Where are we hooked into it? Where are we feeding it? Because to me, it wouldn't have any power unless it was stealing it and we were giving it to it. And we were being deceived and talked into it on some level, or just out of fear, or feeling like you have no choice, still feeding that past or feeding that negative relationship that needs a breakup. So when we are able to let it go and go through this rebirth cycle and begin to get strong in who we are, connect with the earth, cosmos, and spirit, and begin to complete that transformation cycle, that old world has died, and we've won the war of consciousness from within. Because we can ultimately only win any war from within, especially if it's targeting the mind, our creative energy, and our relationships. And so, yeah, it's just important time to determine what doesn't serve us. And it's going to come down to the most micro level: diet, food, friends, living situations, jobs, areas that you might be, living, and to just really do a reset and reboot. Because if we don't, something else is going to do it for us. And that's right, where tyranny is able to really hook into us. And I feel, as I know you do, that the numbers are in our favor as far as enough awakened people on the planet for them to not be able to really, truly get away with it. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think we're there. I think that we passed that point. We're solidly beyond it. But there's still a hesitation, because there's still, I think, enough people that are captured consciousness wise, that they don't feel comfortable moving fully and removing this beast from our, and it's still part of a awakening. I see it. I'm awakening more myself. I thought I was pretty awake, but as time goes on, I'm like, wow, I didn't even know that. I can't believe that was right in front of my face all this time. Or that person I thought was good, or that group that I thought was good, have shown themselves to be like absolute evil, not just bad, but evil. And I was like, wow, I thought it was pretty intuitive. I'd hide that, but it's being revealed. Everything's being revealed right now. And I'm almost at the point where it needs to happen, but I'm really enjoying all this reveal. So I don't know, will the reveal stop when we just basically take all this stuff down, or is it going to continue? I'm sure it will continue. But there's one aspect of me is like, okay, we're getting revealed. That's good. At least we're getting that. That's happening at an unbelievable level. I mean, like we were talking about before we started the show, I feel like I'm in purgatory here. It's like, it's like, God, every day I wake up, I'm like, oh, it's like, the same day, one after another, and that, like that one movie, where, the guy wakes up, it's the same day,
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a great movie. And so anyway, I think it's right at that point. But I thought this before, but it's stronger now than it's ever been. I think within, I hate to put a date on stuff, because it comes and goes like it has for a lot, but it's just, everything just seems to be coming to a head like never before, in the next couple of weeks. So we'll have to see, of course. I'm not getting wrapped up in it. I'm just like observing, just distantly observing. I don't get too emotionally or, and intellectually attached to anything. I'm just like, oh, everything looks like it's kind of coming to a head here. So let's see what happens.
I'm doing much better with the neutral observation stuff. And
Oh yeah.
I kind of go through phases where I got that for a bit. And then all of a sudden I just go and I can't get out of bed. And I'm just like,
Oh yeah.
so a lot of it is processing choices friends and family are making and realizing it's not going to do any good for me to wallow, for me to worry for them. They're going to be fine. I mean, I got to pull that away and really support their choices. I mean, there's a certain point where there's nothing I can do now to create a warning or to pass on any more information than I already have. Well, if you made your final decision, I just want to hold love and I just want to support that decision and give it good energy. Because to me, the ultimate weapon, they use all these weapons to gain access to our mind and our creative power. If we refuse to give that up, I feel that we can neutralize the negative effects of some of these things that are impacting people. But if a person stays in fear or disempowerment, I feel that, these weapons will exacerbate the situation and really, really modify them in a very damaging way. And that's kind of like what I'm writing with. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but that's kind of what kind of lifts me out of it. It was just a little bit, that was the hardest part of this last couple of years is just, man, some of the people I wish I could have reached and being hard on myself about it. Oh, I should have just done this differently. Or if I just had done that. And I'm like, I pretty much have done all I possibly can. And I've been trying to say these things for a while, but I don't like to also be like, oh, I have the answers. It's like, this is their truth. This is their path. This is their journey. All we can do is be resources for each other. And ultimately give each other mutual love and respect for the final decisions that we end up making, and just keep the love vibe alive. Because I feel that is what's going to turn things around. That's going to make this a little bit different than what we've seen in previous years, regardless of where the planets are. Because in this particular window period, with access to the ether energy, the power of miracles and transmutation and alchemy are at an all-time high. So I try and just stay real connected with that, because that actually feels like truth. I feel more grounded and stable within myself when I own that. When I begin to doubt it, it's like my whole system, like just my nervous system, everything just, I start to get really ungrounded and really, so that's kind of like what I'm staying in connection with. Because ultimately, I mean, aren't we like lucid dreaming? And so there might be tactics like we see with dream warfare or abduction scenarios or, implants and these kind of dark technologies have been around a while. It's almost like we have to go through the dark night of the soul and move through these different passages as initiations to become senior to these lower forces. But I don't think in our soul history, any of us has been able to fully escape some level of major attempts to program us, control us, and use us. But we're at different stages. So what we're seeing on the world stage, we're not all going to experience the same way. And that's what's helping me to also be a neutral observer again. It's like, just because this report might be coming out, it just seems like more and more bad news and it's just getting worse and worse. That doesn't mean that that's the way we're all going to experience it. It's just, it seems because of all the social media and all the videos people put out and all the alternative news platforms and even the non-alternative news platforms, we get a glimpse into so many different soul paths and journeys that I think sometimes it's easy to think, are we at the mercy of all this? Are we going to be as impacted in the same way? I mean, what do you think? Because it's like, I mean, bifurcation, timeline split, or we might just leave the physical vessel, move to a higher earth, but we might have to get rid of this one in order to do it, or we just bifurcate and it phases out and there's just a split. I kind of see the potential of maybe all three or maybe one more than the other. Any thoughts on that? I hope you don't mind I'm asking you questions.
No, absolutely. Yes, it's on the same theme. So while you're talking, I like this question on that one and that one and that one, that one. It's like I have like 10 different questions, to ask you. You're just like, I love when you get in this mode. So I love to let you run. But yeah, for me, it's all three. So I see all three of those different ones. I see that we're basically breaking free. There's part of our consciousness breaks free and then moves into this higher level of consciousness, this 5D or beyond. Whatever that is, because at this level, it's kind of hard to imagine that because it's on we think 3D. So how can we think 5D? But we do. And, what are our bodies like? But it happens. It's going to happen. It's going to happen for a very large portion of us. And then there's a group that basically stays with the group that's, controlling consciousness. And then they basically continue, the cycle until they learn to break free from it. And then there's another group that, is kind of in between, moves back and forth. And so there's definitely a three. I already see it right now. So it's almost like I feel like you and I are like in 5D. Sometimes we come back and try to help people to come to 5D, So I think it's all three. It's all three. And, I feel like, we're all in that, Groundhog Day, like we were just talking about. Every day we wake up and like, we don't want to get out of bed because it's going to be the same thing, just like the movie. And then finally, what he does is he breaks free from his karma. He finds love, and he moves on. Then one day he wakes up and it's like the day keeps going, and he wakes up the next day and it's a new day. That's kind of the way it's going to be when we leave this hell that we're in right now and go to this purgatory and go to this next level.
And thank God we all have each other. And I agree. It's like, existing in this other dimension and coming in, to assist. And it's very jarring and kind of brutal to the energy body sometimes when a person's much more in the soul matrix or really just in a deeper place on a spiritual level. To kind of come into what feels like a very shallow, dualistic, where people are really buying into the divide and conquer stuff. And it's hard to keep the vibration high. Sometimes it's just like, I don't know. I think I used to do this where, I didn't have maybe the best lifestyle or habits. And I'm not saying because I'm such an advanced soul, but like I had to lower my vibration, even though I knew I was doing it, just to kind of function. Sometimes I find it almost impossible to function in the human realm. And when I, and thing, it's not about ego and everybody's got these potentials, but a lot of us have come in with these missions, no doubt. And that's just the way it is. And it's just an invitation for people to recognize that there's so much more to them. It's not about, this is the way to go and we have all the answers. And it's really about helping the person to be the best of themselves. And that's what I love about just working with or being friends with folks like you, because it's for that reason, instead of what we see sometimes is the old paradigm that appears to be of higher consciousness that's doing this, is running by the same sort of dependency program of follow me, I've got all the answers. I feel this is much more about helping people to activate and reassure them. And also, we're the best things to discover right now. And it's just important to just do our best to hold together, a sense of community as well, so that people feel that they have a place to go when they need to transition. If they need to leave that job because they're forcing things upon them, that community is building and people feel like, wow, okay, I'm not alone in this. There's people that really care and want to remind others that there are other options. The universe is so abundant. When we step into our purpose, our passion, and our truth, we're in a different dimensional energy that produces magic, synchronicities, miracles, and all sorts of things that are going to help you to meet the right people, meet soul family, and find that perfect location. We can never give up on listening to our higher self and our intuitive guidance. It knows what's best for us more than any other thing.
God, you're amazing. So I remember when we had the lockdown this last time, and I was in the wilderness because that's the way I would, get away and do my thing. And I'm in the wilderness, and I got a notice it was you. You're doing a live. I'm like, oh, Laura's doing a live. So you were talking about how you're no longer going to allow them to come into your space and do what they're doing. And everyone needs to have that same reference, that same mindset. You have to say no. And you did such a beautiful job of doing that. And I was like, wow, that's, then I went on and, hiked another 25 miles, and I was like, wow, motivation. So, yeah. So, and that's what we all need. We're helping each other to stay not only fit, but also have the right, mental attitude and so forth. So when I look at some of this stuff, I look back on, how it progressed in me. When I would know that attacks were coming in a combat zone, I would tell everybody, hey, stay off this road. There's going to be an attack here. It's going to be a big explosion. I see it in my mind, and everybody's like, wow, that's pretty weird. Yeah, we'll stay off the road there. And then it would happen. And then I got to the point where I was like, this isn't helping. Just telling people what's going to happen, it still happens. How can I like change this? And then I got that, hey, start to focus on it and focus on it with love. Because I'd had this experience with Archangel Michael sending me love and stuff. I was okay. So I would see it in my mind. I would see it coming, just like I'd seen all these other attacks. And then I started sending it love, and it didn't happen. I was like, wow, that works. And it proved itself over and over again, because I would leave a city and then the city would have all these attacks. And the one that I went to, I started doing that with, and no attacks after, even though they're having attacks. So we all have this ability. And now I teach people how to do that now. And it's having that state of consciousness, having that pure, beautiful, good consciousness state, being in the love vibration, not letting yourself getting pulled down. Because you get pulled down, you're worthless. You're part of their team. When you pull yourself up into higher consciousnesses, you get access to, like Laura Eisenhower and all, Mike Jaco, whatever. So you're definitely keeping your vibration high, and you're having these experiences that are magical, that are beautiful experiences. And then you get frustrated and you have those negative experiences. So it's all about your consciousness state, where you want to focus yourself.
That's so true. It's so true. And just to bring back the reference of Groundhog Day, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. So that's sort of like the moral of the story, is that he changed something, right? So when you brought that in about the love frequency and you saw the difference that it made, this could be like the ultimate breakthrough to so many people that are struggling, is just to go into that space. It doesn't mean you drop your boundaries, but we can face what might deem to be an enemy with the vibration of love, where because we're not sinking down to the level and feeding its sort of psychological warfare attempt to intimidate you to the point of you complying, and you hold that love frequency in a very empowered way. Sometimes one notices that you disarm whatever it is that they're holding on to that has hardened them to the point of not being able to access the love within. And I just feel like it's a way to cut through whatever programming they're carrying, because that seed still exists somewhere. And I think that's, just so incredibly important. I remember, and I'm not wanting to go through, trauma and tragic stories, but I remember I had this crazy neighbor who was not neighbor, a kid, college kid that was a roommate, sort of his back sort of studio thing in this place I used to live. And I met his father, made sure it was all okay. He was kind of 18-year-old kid. And I was, raising my two kids by myself. And anyway, he must've got activated by something. And this was before I was doing a lot of the research. I knew about psychotronic weaponry and a lot of this stuff, but I mean, this was in the early 2000s. So I know way more now. Anyway, he got activated. He wasn't even like human anymore. And he attempted to try and kill me. And I just remember, love is stronger than death. Love is stronger than death. I held this love frequency and it completely disarmed him. And he just, he couldn't do it. And then I remembered that. And I don't think I'd be here today if I didn't tap into the love frequency in times of danger. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, that's, that I've had those experiences as well. I did, I would go after, I thought it was going to be like the etheric warrior, go out, because I'd heard people that do this go out and battle demons and stuff like that. So I was like, okay, who's causing these terrorist attacks? And so I would send my consciousness out, and I saw who it was before they became news. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna go after them. And then a demon came out from this person and came at me, and that was when I was almost killed. I was killed. And then Archangel Michael sent me back in time and put me back in my body. But that's what happened. So from that point on, I was like, I cannot fight them with anger. I have to fight them with love. I finally got that after it took me a while. I think I dwelt on that for months and months and months and months. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to send that entity love. And I kept sending it love. And then that person was killed. That was Zarqawi. That was the first guy that I worked on. Zarqawi was the guy that was in Iraq at the time that was causing all the terrorist attacks. And he was part of Saddam Hussein's army, I guess is one of his generals or colonels or something. And they had a plan that if they got taken over by America, then all those guys would go basically guerrilla warfare and start to attack, which they were doing a pretty good job of it. And so I went after him, and Interestingly, some of my old buddies in SEAL Team 6 were the ones that took him out.
Oh,
And
wow.
they did the same thing again with bin Laden. They did the same process to terrorist after terrorist after terrorist. Once I learned how to send that love. So the love is very powerful, just like you were talking about. Unbelievable story. So yeah, good job.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I can't wait to read your books. I mean, I probably won't be able to put it down. I'll take a couple of days off. That's amazing. I look forward to them coming out. You got a few, right?
Yeah. Yeah. 3 now.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, I'm finishing up mine. They've been in the works for a really long time.
Right.
I'm finally gonna get them out. Yeah. But
Yeah.
I feel
So
the timing is
you're
perfect.
you're gonna really focus on what aspect at the Mount Shasta event?
What am I going to focus on there?
Yeah, where you can speak about at that event.
I'm going to speak about just facing adversity and a lot of what we're talking about, how we can turn adversity into something that kind of blesses us. That, I mean, to me, everything is an initiation and an opportunity to gain greater strength, to gain self-mastery, to overcome obstacles. And we're here for this reason, to develop ourselves on this sort of level. I mean, what we might deem our purpose for being here is not going to be the same across the board, but on a larger picture level, for us to break this time loop or incarnating in this time loop, we need to learn how to work with the energy of challenge and adversity, so that we're not in victim consciousness, so that we're not constantly looping in the same, sort of patterns, because we've gone unconscious to it, or we're disguising it, or bearing it in our unconscious by taking pharmaceuticals, or being like addicted to something, or just sitting in front of the TV all the time and not like taking time for the self. And how the zodiac map is an opportunity. I see it almost like a treasure map, that all these different patternings, the strengths that we hold, the things that flow harmoniously and easily, versus the things that challenge us, might create injury, illness, some level of challenge on that level, or just adversity based on the things that we keep attracting to ourselves, maybe in the form of people. That when we, really, kind of look at that and get out of that Groundhog's Day and flip the vibration around in a way that can empower us, I feel that the zodiac map, it's sort of like a map that maybe a pirate has, or the other with the little X with the treasure chest, that eventually these breakthroughs lead to the center point, the 0 point in the wheel, to the point where the wheel of necessity ceases to exist, because we're not trying to open these gateways to the next level anymore. We've achieved that, right? So in the way that, you've been expressing yourself, you're like in that zone, kind of coming in. So you're sort of coming into the human incarnational wheel in a very different way than humans that are seated maybe at a later stage in the game, or are, holding a stronger connection to the programs, the amnesia, the just the waking up process, versus coming in to assist in that waking up process. I mean, people aren't all coming in the same kind of way. So it's kind of all about that, a little bit about galactic history, and just,
Good.
I don't know, just turning adversity around. And that's why I like the word alchemy, because we can turn the lead of this human experience into gold. A lot of these ancient teachings were wiped out. They were just, everything was kind of wiped out. So it's just to shed light on that, and hopefully create an activation and an experience for people. So I look forward to that. We're all going to gather in person. It's been a long time. I think last time I saw you was Vegas, right?
Right. With we met 107. Yeah, it was great. And it was great to see you, because your energy is like big energy. So I think everyone that comes to the event, and the one, I think we're going to have more of them. I feel very certain we are. The group of us are going to gather together and start to do this thing. Even though they've tried to lock us down, we probably would have been doing this a long time ago. But now that we're at least getting one in there, it's going to be quite magical, I think. And what a great environment. So as we move forward, and you're starting to share this stuff, I see that portion where we're sharing this information, and more people are gathering to it, and great numbers. I mean, we see Tony Robbins' event. He's got like stadiums full of, tens of thousands of people. I really think that in the future, the information that we're sharing, how to be intuitive, how to change your consciousness and grow and prosper and all that kind of stuff. That's what people are really going to be psyched about and interested in.
And I feel Absolutely. Totally. And I feel whatever's breathing down our neck or whatever we are up against on a large scale level or on a personal level, we're moving through this, difficult sort of purgatory, uncomfortable kind of cloud. But this is what it takes to thin the veils. We have to kind of move through the astral parasite aspect of it all. And that part within ourselves that has fallen into this unconsciousness where there's hidden entities and controller forces that have more of a grip on us than we realize. And if we don't shine a light on our unconscious self, we'll never wake up to the beautiful truth that we're multidimensional beings that can have access to our creative imaginations in really profound ways and be able to eventually come and go from the physical as we please, because that layer is lifted. The veil between life and death is lifted. And all of a sudden, like, we're so much more than we can imagine. So as we gather, as we remind each other, as we help one another access this within, no matter what they beam on us, no matter what weaponry or assault, it's like, this is the immunity that we're building on a spiritual level. We need mental immunity to mind control. We need emotional immunity to just being messed with and played and deceived and robbed and mistreated and abused. We need physical immunity to bioweapons, all that kind of crap, and spiritual immunity to archons and entities. And so I feel when we all gather together with mutual love and respect, and we just are able to share together, we really help one another strengthen our spiritual immune system to the different tactics that the dark weaponry and these entities and these alien agendas, these darker alien agendas, are using on big groups of people, targeting unity consciousness, targeting events, targeting our capacity, to come together. Because as we see, sometimes there's plants put in the mix, or disruptors that all of a sudden relationships are breaking. There's misunderstandings between people. And I really feel like there's a strong group of us, and without naming names, that have defied getting caught in all of that to the point of defeat, and also have been able to protect ourselves from being used for those kind of purposes.
Yeah.
Because some people are very vulnerable. They might have gone through a project as a kid. They might have been myelin. I mean, we just don't know. And the more of a voice we can give to it, the more we can help those that might be dealing with that. If they are so willing to admit, because there's some people I've interviewed that they're like, yeah, I have 200 altars, and about 50 or 100 of them were programmed for these end times to play a certain role to sabotage everyone. Wow. It's like, thank you. At least you have been able to see that. Because some people, there's a lot of Manchurian candidate sleeper agents hiding amongst us. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
That's fabulous that you went into that, because I was going to ask you this question. So we're kind of like linking intuitively. That's good. So being part of the Secret Space program, I have an alternate reality that's happening out there. I think I was cloned and put over there, and I have the soul connection. So it's a good soul. It's a good connection that I'm having. That entity is doing really good things on that side that I can see so far. So I see that a lot of this awakening process is needed for us to link with that, the programs that are going on, the Galactic, Federation and so forth, Council, or so all of them are great, but the ones that are, I think, helping us out are very good, and that's otherwise we would have been annihilated long ago, and are enslaved. So the reason that we're not enslaved is a good indicator. The reason that you and I can speak openly still, even though we are being, sabotaged and shut down in a lot of areas, is the fact that they are helping. That, there's an aspect that is raising our consciousness enough that these dark ones can't completely control us now. So that's an indicator, and that should be obvious to everyone right now. Because the stuff that we talk about now would not have been allowed just a few years ago. So it's magnificent, what we're sharing. So yeah, I see that, I've had, people on that talk about, my lab and all the stuff too. And I have memories myself that are really starting to come through, traveling to Venus and working on love vibrations and stuff like that. So, the Venusians are, heavily involved in helping us ascend, and they have been for quite some time. Andromedans, Pleiadians, there's lots of different groups that are here that are, behind the scenes, sometimes not so much behind the scenes or right out in the open, but we don't realize who they are. That, gets that comes out in open soon. So that's going to be absolutely amazing to a lot of people. But for some of us, we're like, oh, now they're out in the open. That's good. So now everybody can really take the next step forward.
Right. So how do you think it would have manifested a couple of years ago as either censorship, or you would have gotten communication that you're not allowed to share, or it's too soon, or?
Yeah, all that. Yeah, it would have been because there's stuff that I know that I can't communicate, and I'm sure you're the same way. It's just not consciousness, not ready for it. Or
Oh yeah.
the dark ones would definitely come knocking on my door, and not gently. So there's definitely things that we can't yet share, but that we're sharing now that would not have been allowed in the past. That they would have come and knocked on the door, and taken us away. So there's that.
There's not a risk of that now, or?
Oh yeah, that risk is never going to go away. Well, I say never, but never as long as they're somewhat in charge, somewhat in power.
But the benevolent side is expansive enough in these times where it's sort of like, even if it's sort of like, no, I know, I kind of get it. And I just wanted to say, but I wanted you to finish your thought, but I was going to just add something there.
Yeah. So the dark ones are definitely, still there. We can't, completely, open up 100%, but we're opening up on a level that hasn't been seen in a long time. We're actually, they talk about, well, there's going to be disclosure. We're disclosing. Hello. We've been disclosing for a long time.
I'm not waiting around for any disclosure. We are disclosure.
Yeah.
And we'll continue to be disclosure. And it is pretty much full disclosure. Whatever is held back for whatever reason is necessary. It can't all be exposed. And the thing is, we are multidimensional beings. So a lot of people born with amnesia are not going to remember their full soul history, which might include some of the different kind of things that are hard for people to, grasp. There's a lot of people walking around that don't even know that they've been a part of these, projects and programs. I definitely know that I have a link to secret space programs and a connection with Baltimore and beings from Venus. And there was no way to really take down these dark forces without this level of positive military that you ended up and are a part of. That, I mean, what an incredible calling, because especially with the planet Venus and the love frequency, it's unbelievable, because you got so many different factions or levels to the secret space program, and some are just absolutely with the malevolent forces or the ones that are trying to enslave humanity. But I even heard that Eisenhower set something up. I don't know if this is true. The USMC Special Section, Randy Kramer, talks about that they had to come up with a secret or a super soldier program in order to counteract what the more, and that it's with positive groups.
Absolutely.
And it's not based so much in the trauma to create super soldier. It's more based in creating these sort of alter personalities, not through trauma, but through a different method. And it just seems like there's a link to you there. And does that link to the White Hats? Is this okay that I bring up?
Yeah. It's all linked. All that is up. I'm definitely part of the White Hat group. On certain levels, not openly. They don't contact me every day. Some contact is made, but I share some stuff that I can, and I feel like they're inadvertently and telegraphing stuff to me. They have people they send to contact me, and it's good.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, so I know, I'm trying to learn as much as I can. I'm like, okay, I was born in this family for a reason. I have a big mouth. I got that part. That was very clear. But I don't feel it my purpose to complete. I don't know. I got a multiple type purpose, but I feel I stand for truth, even if it's truth I don't like. But I ended up being very surprised at the things that I found when I was running on some limited information in the very beginning. And I've just discovered more and more. And would you say that safeguards and things like this were put in place during his administration and probably before? And it's kind of like a baton that gets passed down in order to build this light force connected to the military, connected to this ascension window period that's been growing for a while?
Yeah, obviously a good guy. He was, getting exposed to information, just like, 9/11 was an exposure to information to us that we didn't quite completely understand for years later. What level they had gone to create that event, and all the the CGI, the weapon systems, and all kinds of stuff that we're directed energy weapons that we saw that they used, that wasn't discovered for many years later, until they started to break everything down, and had pictures and stuff of that. A lot of that stuff is hidden now. So if you didn't catch that in the early days, then it's kind of hard to get it. But there's enough of us, I think, that have talked about it, and people have searching minds that they can discern at this point that was definitely a black hat event. And there's been many of them since then, and I think there's many of them that are ready to come out. So yeah, those guys, Eisenhower and all those guys, were exposed to stuff that blew them away. It's like, imagine being exposed to extraterrestrials when no one ever talked about that before. Maybe not openly, but here you are, you're totally exposed to it. I can promise you that when you're exposed to extraterrestrials, it's going to be mind blowing. You're going to be like, you're going to have to be with that for a while. So they had to be with that for a while, and all the stuff that they were having to do, and the roadblocks that they had to put up so they could, like, for one, understand exactly what it was they were dealing with, what is going on here, and who's involved. And then they started to find out there's malevolent ones, and good ones. And just like there are here on Earth, malevolent and good human beings. So the same thing with the, our space brothers and sisters out there. There's good ones and there's bad ones. So some of them have been bad and work with, people in Germany during the World War II. And then some of them were good that work with us, fortunately, that countered that. So that countering process was part of his administration. And I believe, and it continues, to this day. There's people that were involved, behind the scenes in a negative way, and there's people involved in a positive way. And we're seeing, if you look at them, you would say those guys that got involved in a negative way in that time frame are the black hats. And then the white hats are the ones that, like, they saw the game the way it was being played, and they were like, okay, we have to create another group that counters this group. So thus the secret soldiers, or those guys that were enhanced to be able to counter the stuff that they were doing. So super soldiers, on both sides. So you have to have that, just like you have nuclear weapons, throughout all these countries, deterrence. Will they ever be used? Probably not, but it's a deterrent factor, So same thing with super soldiers and so forth.
That's what's so interesting, because it seems like a lot of these dark agendas or eugenic programs or some of the ideologies, even though they seem to change, because it's not so much about the race or ideology or even group, it has to do with control, because now they're using all these other tactics, but it's the same playbook, but it's now supportive of what one might consider the minority versus what it was like with the SS groups and how they train them to be all about the Aryans or whatever. But, right. But it seems like none of that even matters. All they want is control, is that you support whoever or whatever regime wants the power. And it just seems maybe this is bait right now to just convince those groups that, oh yeah, we actually care about you. And I mean, it just shouldn't come down to authority deciding. I mean, we're all here to love each other, no matter what our race, our diversity, our beliefs is. I mean, that's just like, it feels like, do we really need to learn these lessons? We know this as children. They've been trying to rip us away from this primal awareness and knowingness. When we're in our innocence, we all come together. It's like none of that really, matters. I know historically, yeah, there's a lot of trauma, but it's across the board. I mean, if we really, really look at it and dig deep into it. So they're seeming to be very successful with how they're able to capture the minds and hearts of folks because of whatever trauma they're carrying, whatever. But yeah, it just seems so weird to digress back into this critical race theory type stuff. Almost like it's in response to things that have already taken place in history that feels reassuring to people, like, oh, look, we're taking a stand against what was this certain way, but it's coming from the same players that just simply want control. They don't care how they get it. Would you agree?
Yeah, they're trying to capture the narrative, as we know. Of a lot of different things. The captured election and how that's being discovered and how that was captured is being discovered. So they're trying to create another narrative where, they're trying to steal the vote for, African Americans or whatever. It's like, no, that's not what's happening here, but they're, hitting those emotions because they know how to work that and try and pull that narrative in a different direction. So yeah, they're creating different narratives. They're pushing different agendas. They're masters at it, and if they think and they know that if they scream and shout the loudest, that they oftentimes will win. This time, not so much. People are just not buying it.
And this is what's so cool about the love frequency that you're talking about, because it seems like it just can't penetrate it at all.
Yeah.
Because it's a real genuine love. It's beyond fourth chakra love. It's universal love. It's God source love. It's unconditional love. And it's just, it can't be penetrated. And it's the most ultimate weapon. And in holding that, this is what's helped me when I see like the skies being sprayed or I see any of this stuff. And I look at it as a tool for other people's awakening, and I turn the weapon into a tool for growth and healing, then I feel like it's just like sitting there all bummed, like I'm supposed to scare you and piss you off. I'm like, I'm just holding, like, we can turn things around in our minds,
Right.
And bless it with, love frequency and gratitude. Well, thank you for reminding me how afraid you are of our power.
Yeah.
Nice trying to, take that away. But and that's why I love like Ripley's Believe It or Not growing up, people eating light bulbs. It's like mind over matter, spirit holds dominion over matter, especially in these times. And also the love frequency, that if we, can maintain it and hold it, I feel like there's really nothing we can't handle. And regardless of what happens, as long as we're not imprisoned here, we shouldn't take the outer world too seriously, right? I mean,
oh yeah, absolutely. So the same thing with the, manipulating the weather like they do with the chemtrail and stuff like that. When I would see that, I was like you're talking about, I would send it love, and then I would try to influence weather, and I was not getting a response. So I finally got to the point where I was like, I have to go 5D because this is 3D manipulation, and 4D where they come in with their mind controls type stuff. So if I go 5D, so I went to 5D, all I had to do was think 5D. Think 5D love, think the weather that I wanted to, either it was pushing a storm or pulling in weather, if there's a drought or something like that. That's when it worked. I was like, oh, it's just like we're talking about. Love is 5D. And when you really start to focus it as a 5D unit of thought projection, it's extremely powerful, and it's just an extreme manifester. So it's very, very powerful for people. That's why I'm always saying stay in that love vibration, and then take it to the next level and start to think 5-dimensional with it. And that's all you have to do. You don't have to understand what 5D is. All I do is think 5D, and then it works. It's like magic. Life's crazy.
oh yes. Oh, totally. And it's funny because, 5G, 5D, and I was always thinking about that. And I wrote something recently that, the 5G is really trying to keep us locked, in that personality matrix that's easily mind controlled, because people's self-worth and self-esteem has been targeted since childhood of what it means to be successful, what it means to be this, what it means to be that. And if you're not this, then you're over here, maybe an outcast. And so outcasts have found their own sense of empowerment being just very, strong in who they are, and some not so much. Maybe they suffer greatly from that being ostracized, and I know how that goes. But what's interesting, about 5D and how, if I were to explain it to people, and I know we'll probably close soon, even though I don't think it's necessary either, and I don't really think about it when I think in terms of it, but what I did find a correlation with that makes it make a lot of sense is, these numbers have to line up. They don't always line up as far as some numerological things connected to astrology, but at the same time, it makes sense. Like the number 4 in numerology relates to the emperor, but the number 4 in the zodiac is the mother house. It's the house of the moon. So, okay. But then the masculine and feminine coming together in that integration of polarity, to me, is maybe why and how these numbers have changed over the course of time. Because I know the feminine exists just as much in men as it does women. And this sort of empowering of the divine feminine is very much what men are experiencing. And that's why I love the term intuitive warrior, because to me, that's the ultimate integration of the
Oh yeah,
intuition,
nice, good.
the warrior
Right.
energy, that you embody that and help people to
I
find
I
that.
never thought of it like that. That's beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah. But anyway, so the 5D, holding that love frequency, when we look at chakras, our fifth chakra is our throat chakra. If we're infected with mind control, our words are going to pass that infection to others unless they're strong in who they are. So 5G to me is where we haven't cleared our fifth chakra and it's operating under mind control, and it's spreading mind viruses, and it's becoming a hive mind or becoming genetically altered. Regardless of the weapons or the choices people have made, if we can gain command over our fifth chakra and align with the truth frequency, our words, not being under the spell of mind control, can heal or help people to activate a healing process within themselves. Because our words can destroy or they can uplift and make a person's day. And in any moment, we have a choice to use this power of words to form friendships, to make people feel more of a connection, to honor who they are. Or we can just be into the divide and conquer judgments and just this lower energy. And to me, the 5G or 5D is very much about the throat chakra being the fifth chakra, and the alchemical energies. The fifth element is the ether. So if we purify the fifth chakra, we can bring that ether in, choose words that are in a truth frequency, and absolutely dismantle this dark weaponry, and get people excited to just step away from all that. And to me, that's kind of like how in the face of 5G, we can be immune to its negative impact, because we have moved into a higher dimensional space, which functions on different physics. It can neutralize this stuff. Just like you said, you're being a neutral observer. That's so critical right now. So I just had to add that. I know that's kind of like a ramble, but
no, that was a magnificent teaching, and you've had so many during the course of our conversation. So it's fantastic to see the level of awareness that you're sharing with people. It's definitely changing consciousness. It's changing my consciousness as I speak with you. So it's fantastic. It doesn't matter where you're at on this consciousness scale. You can be in the first chakra, and get something from this. You can be in the seventh chakra, and I feel like I'm in all of those. As we're having this conversation, I move up and down through them, and I get little ecstasy in each one of those chakras as they spin a little bit faster as you're spinning your information out. So it's fabulous to see someone on this level be able to transmit through your fifth chakra the information that you do, and you do it so well.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, it's mutual.
Yeah.
And
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah.
Make it possible.
So it's been fantastic speaking with you again. If people want to get hold of you, how can they?
cosmicgaia.org. You can sign up for Conscious Vitality there, and pretty much everything I put there. Join definitely my Telegram group. I post a lot of stuff on a regular basis, and that link is on my homepage, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, your Telegram is quite fascinating. I get a lot out of it too. So yeah, I highly recommend it. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's just been very uplifting and incredible. And as much as you share all these supportive words, I bumble around in this human realm just like, and I knew it would just be wonderful to be in your space, and I feel so much better for it. So thank you.
Yeah, I definitely honor the feminine, because I learned so much. So I've always been that way. I used to, like, when I was a little kid, I would get the lotion out and I would rub my mom's feet, and all the other women in the family. They're like, oh, we'll let Michael rub our feet, and then they talk. And I was like, oh, I've learned, So I've always been this way. So it's fun to get the feminine side of things, because it definitely helps us men to go to the next level, and vice versa, I hope. So it's been great having you. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Oh, it means so much. I really appreciate it. So thanks for having me, Michael. We'll be in touch, and I look forward to seeing you very soon.
Yeah, that's gonna be great. All right. Thanks, everybody.